Hey folks, and welcome to another video of mine. In today's video, we're going to be talking about an important thing that actually came up in one of the comments that I had received in one of the videos that I made about the LG UP7500 and UP7720 and comparing that to the Samsung entry-level AU series. And it was an interesting comment. The comment was that, on LG's website, it states that LG televisions, the UP7500 and 7720, they come with Dolby Vision IQ. And it's an interesting point. And the question was, you said that it does not have Dolby Vision. The website says that it has Dolby Vision IQ. IQ, remember that, all right? It has an IQ towards the end. So in today's video, we're going to talk about whether these LG televisions, first of all, have Dolby Vision or not. Number two, what exactly is Dolby Vision IQ? Thirdly, we're also going to talk about how it compares to HDR10 plus adaptive, because that is also another technology that is available in Samsung televisions. So this video is going to be all about this. Kindly stick around till the end of the video and you will find out exactly what these things are. Let's get started, folks. All right, now the first thing that I want to talk about before I get into Dolby Vision IQ and HDR10 plus adaptive is Dolby Vision and HDR10 plus, because it's going to be used for context. We do have to understand what they are to finally understand IQ and HDR10 plus adaptive. So let's get started with this comparison first. Now on your screen you'll be seeing a chart where it talks about the color output of HDR10, HDR10 plus, and Dolby Vision, that is. Now your HDR10 even came on televisions which had only an 8-bit panel. Of course, we have moved over from that stage where we have an 8-bit panel, because now we have 8-bit panels plus FRC. So technically, it's very close to what a 10-bit panel actually is. And in most of the mid-budget televisions, you do get 10-bit panels as well. And the advantage with 8-bit plus FRC plus 10-bit panels is the fact that they can display over 1.07 billion colors. That's why if you look at the advertisements of any of these televisions, you would also have that statement, where it states that it comes with the display outputs 1.07 billion colors. So what's different with Dolby Vision is the fact that it's an advanced technology when compared to HDR10 and HDR10 plus, because it is also supposed to be working with 12-bit panels. Now I know that a lot of televisions in the market today, they do not have 12-bit panels. In fact, they only have 10-bit panels mainly. There could be exceptions, where there are extremely expensive televisions which actually come with 12-bit panels and the ability to be really, really bright. But the majority of the televisions that we work with now come with 10-bit panels. But the advantage of Dolby Vision is that it will work with 12-bit, thereby being able to output 68 billion colors. That's right. And it's a very simple math. If you look at the screen, you just multiply 4096 into 4096 into 4096, and you will get that magic number of 68 billion colors. So that's the first thing that Dolby Vision offers, and that's why it's different from HDR10 and HDR10 plus. And the second thing that Dolby Vision offers is the fact that it can get to as bright as 10,000 nits. Now that is really bright. When we compare it with HDR10 plus, the HDR10 plus can get as bright as 4,000 nits. Last in the list would be HDR10 with only 1,000 nits of peak brightness, you could say, that it can deliver. Now, the other thing that we want to keep in mind is that the HDR10 is your HDR which works with static data, whereas your HDR10 plus and Dolby Vision actually works with dynamic metadata. Now what this means is that there are various aspects, various movements, various things happening on the screen, and it will display the picture quality depending on that scene. So for instance, if you're looking at a scene which has very dark elements on the screen and very bright elements on the other side of the screen, if you look at it diagonally, then it works in such a way that the picture quality is at the optimum level, because the way it's generating the image in this section is very different to this section which is bright. That's the beauty of dynamic metadata. But when it comes to your static HDR, which is your HDR10, it's just one data that it works with. It's not dynamic exactly. So, the fluidity that you get with HDR10 Plus and with Dolby Vision is not available on HDR10, and that's why it's inferior when compared to these two technologies. Now, your HDR10 Plus is a technology which is open source, because Samsung, when it launched it, it made it open source, so a lot of TV manufacturers, they can actually pick it up, work along with it. Dolby Vision, however, is proprietary technology, and there's a licensing element in it as well. However, even after the licensing bit, a lot of television manufacturers actually have started offering Dolby Vision in their televisions, and the reason why they're offering Dolby Vision's technology in their television is simply because of the fact that a lot of OTT providers like Netflix, Disney Plus Hotstar, they prefer displaying their content on Dolby Vision or using Dolby Vision's technology to create that image and working with Dolby Vision's HDR content. Samsung televisions do not have Dolby Vision. In fact, none of their TVs do. That's a little frustrating, I know. But they're the ones who actually pioneered, you could say, HDR10 Plus, and in fact, they collaborated with Amazon when they launched HDR10 Plus. That is why, when you look at Prime Video's content, a lot of what you see on Prime Video actually supports HDR10 Plus, because hey, it's Amazon's collaboration with Samsung, and that's why it really shines. If you look at HDR10 Plus content on Samsung televisions and with Prime Video, the content really shines through. It looks fantastic, fabulous. Now, the one thing that I do want to talk about is, I know that there's this fascination of a lot of people where they want that Dolby Vision badge, and I can understand where they're coming from. They're paying money for it, so they want everything in the TV, and it is only fair that they demand for it. I'm really disappointed about the fact that Samsung did not think about including Dolby Vision in any of the televisions that they launch. It's a bummer, but I guess we'll just have to work with it for now. That's basically your Dolby Vision, HDR10 Plus and HDR10. Now, the reason why I discussed about these different technologies is because we are going to talk about HDR10 Plus and Dolby Vision in particular when we move over to the next section, which is Dolby Vision IQ and HDR10 Plus adaptive. Now, with that said, let's get into this segment and find out all about Dolby Vision IQ. Now, please note, when I started talking about Dolby Vision, I did talk about Dolby Vision being the HDR standard, where you have dynamic metadata that you're working with. Now, that is important because when we talk about Dolby Vision IQ, the first thing that I want to clarify, it's not Dolby Vision. So if you've got manufacturers like LG or Panasonic, because these are the two manufacturers that I can think of that actually work with Dolby Vision IQ, and if you take these manufacturers, they have that displayed on their television website as well, where they are talking about these models, that it comes with filmmaker mode, it comes with Dolby Vision IQ. What is Dolby Vision IQ? Good question. First of all, we have to understand about the content, how the content is color graded. Now, in this case, when you talk about watching movies as an example, please note that when movies are created, they are color graded, keeping in mind that you're going to be watching that movie in a dark environment. Why a dark environment? Because hey, movies are meant to be seen on the big screen. And when we step into the movie hall, please note how before the movie starts, all the lights go out and you're watching the movie in complete darkness. That's why movie makers, they generally color grade their movies in a dark environment. Why does this matter? Well, it matters because finally, when that movie is seen on a TV need not necessarily be watched in a dark environment, because at home you have different lighting conditions, and these lighting conditions could be extremely bright light in your living area, or you have kept your television in such a place where there's a lot of natural light coming in from the window and it's hitting the panel. Now, this environment is totally different to your movie hall or your cinema experience. Now, that is why Dolby Vision IQ comes into the picture. It comes into the picture because what Dolby Vision IQ does is it's a software enhancement where it's taking the metadata of Dolby Vision and working with your room's lighting to display the best image quality. For instance, you're watching a movie. Let's imagine that for a second. and you started watching the movie in a dark room. All of a sudden, somebody walks into your room and switches the light on. Now, when that person switches the light on, the picture quality that is on display will change. Why? Because the software algorithm is programmed to change your content on your screen based on the lighting conditions around you. That is Dolby Vision IQ. And in this case, since it's working with Dolby Vision's metadata, that's why it's called Dolby Vision IQ. Now, when we move over to HDR10 Plus Adaptive, the concept of how it works is very similar to Dolby Vision IQ, because HDR10 Plus Adaptive actually works with HDR10 Plus dynamic metadata, and it takes that and displays the content in the same way, where if the lighting condition in your room changes, the image or the picture quality will change, keeping that lighting condition in mind. And that's why the name actually gives it away. You know, if you look at HDR10 Plus Adaptive, it adapts to the light around you. And that's what the technology does. In principle, they work more or less in the same way. They are fetching the data from Dolby Vision in case of Dolby Vision IQ, and HDR10 Plus in case of HDR10 Plus Adaptive, and then working with the lighting environment that you are currently in, because hey, your TV is not always watched in a dark room. So that's your Dolby Vision IQ and your HDR10 Plus Adaptive. Now, HDR10 Plus Adaptive, please note that it's different to your ambient light mode that you find on Samsung televisions. Now, why is it different? It's different simply because of the fact that ambient light, it does not work with dynamic metadata. It's just your lighting. So, you know, when you fetch dynamic metadata, remember how I, spoke about how Dolby Vision and HDR10 Plus being dynamic HDR displays your content on the screen, because one screen could have multiple colors, multiple, things going, dark areas, bright areas, colorful areas, black and white areas. So that dynamic metadata comes very handy when it comes to displaying that image, and that's where the adaptive lighting comes into the picture. And it's different to ambient lighting, because ambient lighting is also available in cheaper Samsung televisions, like their entry-level televisions, and even my Samsung AU9070 actually has the ambient light feature. So if, let's say for instance, I'm watching a movie and somebody turns the light on, the lighting does change if I switch that on. The lighting will become slightly brighter in a brighter environment to compensate for the lighting. But this is different because there is no dynamic metadata in this case. It's just static. It's just purely ambient light based. But your adaptive, HDR10 Plus Adaptive, that is, it works on the light, but the source data is from HDR10 Plus, which is dynamic metadata. So please keep that in mind, and that is the difference between ambient lighting and adaptive lighting. HDR10 Plus Adaptive is only available in Samsung's mostly expensive QLED lineup, and I'm going to put up a list of all the televisions that actually come with HDR10 Plus Adaptive in the description box. Whereas LG has an upper hand in this case, because even their entry-level televisions like the UP7500 and 7720, they actually come with Dolby Vision IQ. So kudos to LG for implementing this in their entry-level models as well. Having said all of this, please note that most of the televisions in the budget range, or you could say the mid-budget range, they just give a peak brightness of around 300 to maybe 450. And in that peak brightness, whether you're watching your content on HDR10 Plus or in Dolby Vision, HDR content will be kind of alright. I mean, you can't expect the world. Yes, there are televisions, which give out more than 1000 nits of brightness, and that is where, you'd be able to see the actual difference in Dolby Vision, in HDR10 and in HDR10 Plus. But for all of us who are just working with 350 to 450 nits of brightness, there's not going to be much of a difference. But I thought, I'll make this video where I explain about Dolby Vision IQ, HDR10 Plus Adaptive, and hopefully you've learned something through this video. Well, that's it, as far as the information goes. Do let me know, what you think about it. And in case, you feel that I've missed out on anything, if I've left out anything in relation to these aspects, then feel free to comment in the comment section. Well, if you haven't already hit the like and subscribe button, then now is the time that you take your finger and place it on the mouse. Hit that like and subscribe button, please. It definitely helps with the YouTube algorithm. It encourages me to put out more content for all you lovely folks. And also hit that bell icon in case you want to get notified with all my latest videos. Well, that's a wrap for this one. Until we meet again in the next video, folks, this is me signing off and saying take care, stay safe, and may God bless you all.